Okay, so we are back with our podcast. Hi, Dr. Trish.
Hey, what's going on? How are you today?
Doing well. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
So I figured we would talk about our program and how it is different from others, because I know a lot of people are out there trying to figure out which program is right for them. Should they go to counseling? Should they share their struggles with the world? What should they do? So I know that you and I have a lot of history with, me as a mental health counselor, lots of different methods of counseling. So I thought that'd be a good topic today.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it. Because finding the right program and actually, I think even if we back that up a step to discovering that you need a program, and that a program or a counselor or a mental health professional, something or somebody you can trust, when you realize I need help in this and I can use support. When you get that support, it is the thing that can take a year, 2, 3 decade of suffering and struggle and can make it so that, first of all, you don't feel alone. And you feel supported, you feel knowledgeable, you have action steps that are good for you. And it literally takes you from floundering around in the dark, lonely and hurt and not knowing what to do, or worse, angry and full of resentment and, eating away at you. It takes you from that place to hopeful and connected and supported. And it's the most important thing a person can do when they discover, I've got something going on in my life with my partner. And when it comes to sex, nobody wants to talk about sex. It's like, not a thing you talk to, especially when it's a negative thing happening in your life. It's not something you feel like you can share. So I would love to talk about that, because if any of what we talk about, and if you go to our website at Sanity After Betrayal and you read just the small little snippets of information we've put there, and you're like, that's me, and this makes sense to me, then having help in this journey can be the biggest gift you give yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's why I got so excited about working with you, just hearing your different perspective and bringing in the brain and healing it. I've always been very holistic, but, a lot of programs out there are very one-sided. And as a counselor, I mean, goodness, I became a counselor because when I was little, I had certain therapists that I was like, I could do this. My goodness, if this is what you're offering, I can do this better.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and honestly, that's why I have gotten into my field in neuroregulation and brain health coaching, because along the way, I'm like, I started as a speech language pathologist. I don't know if you remember that, but even in regard, long time ago, I was like, there has to be a better, faster, easier way for people to get through these struggles. And then that has developed. And to me, it's like, if you have the right tools to help your brain heal, and you have the right person to move you in the right direction, then you get better faster and you actually can start to enjoy the process of it. And that's a bow on top of a situation.
Right. And I think that's why I moved into the coaching role, because I am more solution focused, and that is a style of therapy, but for the most part, people, there's a difference. And so I think that's important when you're trying to decide which program are you going to do. Are you just going to go get yourself a one-on-one therapist? Are you going to enter into a program? Are you going to do a combination, support groups? What is it that you feel you need? Because counseling is great, but a good therapist isn't going to give you advice. They're not supposed to.
Right.
So danger number one,
Yep.
if they're giving you advice, run. On day one, especially. Kevin and I went to a therapist clearly right after we were married, just, marriage issues, first year. And the therapist within one session said, this is not going to work. If you are having this much trouble, you just need to leave. Oh. what?
Totally. And that's
Right?
another one of our dangers. We'll get there in
It
a
is.
second,
I
but
think that's such a
definitely.
huge one.
Yep.
But going and figuring out, like, do you want this to drag on and on and on and on, or do you want to actually take some action? And
Mhm.
sure, that pain is going to be there for a little while, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between wallowing in it and just having a sounding board and taking true action and getting education.
Yep. Yep. And so I guess we'll say that our danger alert number one is the wrong fit. And so finding a therapeutic alliance, and actually I know the research on this, being a researcher or a scientist, my scientific mind pays off sometimes because I look into things that nobody else cares to look into. But I looked up the research on the therapeutic alliance. And that means the bond that's made between therapist or coach or psychotherapist, counselor, mental health professional, the bond that the professional and the person can establish organically and authentically out of the gates is the most important factor, and one of the most important factors. If it's there, people are successful in their journey of recovery or figuring out whatever they're there for. If that alliance isn't actually built, the likelihood of success goes down magnanimously. So danger number one is the wrong fit. If you're with a person that you're working with and it's meh, if you feel like it's meh, or if their credentials just don't make sense for what you have going on, and I would like to dig into that a little bit deeper here, then that is a danger alert. And when we're talking about sexual betrayal and trauma, your person, no matter what their credentials are, and they should have good credentials, your person should know about the complexity and the nuances of sexual betrayal, because this is not easy stuff. It's very, very complex in terms of what's going on with your partner and what's going on with you. They're two huge balls of wax that need to be figured out, and your person needs to know what each of the partners in that partnership are going through.
Mhm.
And if they don't, then again, the likelihood of you feeling good through the process and actually getting to an outcome that's good for you, and that outcome can't always be pegged at the beginning, but getting to a healthy outcome is, much harder.
Right, right. Yes, that bond is so important. I know we were talking earlier about, sending somebody to a therapist that, you go for sexual betrayal and you walk in and this person only sees toddlers. It's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
right? Don't give up on all therapists. Go find you the right one.
Yeah. So I will tell you, the reason we're here, at least the reason I'm here, and you can chime in on it, is that therapy is very expensive. Very expensive. And so if you're looking for the right therapist, and we talked about this off mic, but you can bounce around from person to person, which is very expensive, spending, $200 just to tell someone your story to see if it's a good fit, and then to have to move on. First of all, you don't want to have to tell 10 people your story. You want to find that right person. Some of them will do a free consult. Many of them, though, like, if you're going to tell them your whole story, it's usually a session. And then, that's expensive. So for us, creating the programs that we are creating, they're affordable. And yes, it's still an investment, all good things are. But my point about that is, if you're assigned a therapist for free, some people do that, or it comes along with your employee assistance programs, you might not be getting the person that you need. And I do think, like we already said, having a person to offload and to externalize your internal experience is worth it if you don't have to pay for that person, and they might not be the best suited person, but take caution of what they tell you back. Because externalizing to an emotionally mature person, most of us don't even have that in our life, where we can go, you will not believe the shit that's going on with me, and, listen to this. But a lot of people I work with in my Porn Brain Rewire program, they have therapists, and they're like, my therapist doesn't know anything about this, but I like her. Should I keep going? Yeah, keep going. You've got the therapeutic bond and alliance. But in my program, you're going to learn the things that you need to do, and hopefully that person can acknowledge them. So, making sure that fit and that the credentials and the knowledge piece is there for sure.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the difference then, right? You just said with the program, you're getting education, you're getting direction and guidance. And I like the fact that it encompasses every aspect of addiction, recovery, healing. It takes you through the whole process from beginning to end, um,
Mhm.
without it moving at that, snail pace.
Yep, yep. And snail's pace is danger. Number two is that working with some professionals, it is a slow boat to China. That when you have the psychoeducation, which many therapists can give psychoeducation, but when in our program, it's neuro, bio, psycho, social, spiritual education. This is a transformational program that covers not only those aspects for you as a person who's experiencing sexual betrayal, but also what your partner is going through in terms of someone who has sexually acting out behaviors or addiction surrounding that. Again, the two balls of wax. And if you're on a slow boat to China, again, you're suffering and you're struggling, and you go to a counselor one time a week, it's $200, and then I don't even know how many hours are in the rest of the week, but the rest of the week, 24/7, you're struggling and suffering, and you don't have the tools to go interact with your partner in a healthy way and address some of these behaviors. And we know boundaries are our friend when it comes to sexual betrayal recovery. Learning how to set and hold them, and having someone to support you through that can be really, really important. So if you feel like you've tried to do this with a mental health professional and you enjoy your sessions, but outside of that, you're not moving forward, I'm here to tell you, you can move forward. This is a process. You can't necessarily avoid the process aspect and make it an event. That's not going to happen, but you can facilitate this very difficult process so that you get from, you know, hurt and alone and struggling to supported and taking positive action steps that really make you feel empowered and inspired to keep going. You can get there much more quickly than, on a slow boat.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit about how you go to a therapist and they don't know, everything. I mean, most therapists are very general. There are definitely a few out there that are very niche and they pour all of their energy into treating one specific issue. But for the most part, it's general. And so they can't know it all, right? But here you have done extensive research and made sure that this is also helping the relationship, right? It is two-sided. There's a program for the men and there's a program for the women that they can do on their own in the middle of the night if they need to. They have access to that support. They have the ability to send questions in and get those answered. And then if they so choose, they can also get the individualized support. And, in those women's circles, they currently are meeting on Fridays right now. But that's a very small group of other women that are dealing with this too. And so there's so much power in knowing that you're not alone, and kind of leaning on those people versus maybe sometimes talking to someone that truly has zero idea what it's like.
Mhm, mhm. And you know what? That is totally true. So the reason we developed this program is because we know how all this stuff goes from the inside out. And I believe when you work with someone, having someone who has the inside out experience is really powerful. So being able to have a person who is further along on the journey than you are, and especially a professional who's educated themselves on it also, then that's how you move forward. So in the women's groups, having camaraderie with like-minded people who are in a similar situation that you are, but being guided by someone who's figured it out and can lead the group, that is really powerful. I've been involved in many women's groups, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think there's merit in all of them with the camaraderie piece, but having the guidance is really fundamental to be able to get together and feel supported, but also every time you meet, being able to be moved forward. And a cool thing about groups like that is you get to learn from what's happening in the other people's worlds, that, sharing what's going on in yours and getting personal advice and counseling and coaching, but then at the same time, hearing what's happening to another person, because what happens is you might not even know that that is a thing or a situation, because that light hasn't been shed on that aspect of your situation. And I know there's really big power in that. I do that in the men's groups. The men come on, and just happened last week where one of the guys is like, that is happening to me too. I didn't know that this was part of this. And I'm like, yeah, that's part of it. And then we dissected it a little. And then, everybody moves away better for listening to each other's stories and aspects, because this whole thing is very individualized, but highly patternized. There's patterns to the whole thing. So when you experience this, and especially when you realize what you're going through, and you're like, we were talking about Discovery Day off mic again too, and we're like, you figure out something's going on, and you have that rush of awful feeling take over your brain and your body. When you realize every other person in that woman's circle had that experience, but then you listen and it was different, but the same, you're like, I'm not alone in this terrible thing that I'm experiencing. Millions of people across the world are experiencing right now too. So it takes the terror out of it, and it puts this, let's get oriented on solution. Like you were saying, let's get coaching and let's get working on this thing. And when you realize, and this is what I think is lacking in the slow boat to China mode, is that this thing has a process to it. If you systematically move through this process and you engage with it instead of running away from it or avoiding it and pretending it doesn't exist, you will in fact move through it. You'll move through it with grace, maybe not ease, but you'll grow and you'll become a better version. And on the other side, you'll be like, wow, I'm strong. I did that.
Absolutely. I mean, you literally just gave me chills, because I'm thinking how amazing it is to hear other stories and know you're not alone, gain confidence, and you see that there is hope, that all is not lost. And maybe I can't see it yet, but hey, that person, they figured this out and they're doing better than me right now. And then, when you're doing better and, somebody is there talking about, their D-Day, right? Then you can pull them along, and I do believe that speeds up healing and recovery when you are then helping someone else along their journey.
It definitely does. And that's part of 12-step recovery in all recovery groups. There's sponsorship. So, that is part of it. And you know what they say about, if you can teach somebody else and mentor somebody else, you've really internalized it, taken ownership in the system, and you can pass that on, and it becomes empowering for you because you realize you're further along than you were when you started this journey. Another thing for me in those groups that was really powerful is that, sitting in a group, you look at other women and you're like, whoa, she's got so much on her plate. Like, it feels so much bigger than what's on your plate. And then you look at somebody else and go, ooh, their plate has less. But then you actually, over time, you realize everybody's plate has the exact same patternized thing on it. It just has like differences. So it really does build that like empathy. We know that building empathy is a huge part of recovery. Empathy for other people and for their situations, and empathy for your partner if you're going to heal your relationship, understanding your partner struggling and that's why they're acting out. And, of course, we'll talk about that in a different episode, but, it builds that when you listen to other people. Most part, we're not good listeners. We're good talkers. So when you're forced to listen and to give feedback, and it is skill building, like you want to believe too.
Right. Absolutely. So should we sum it up? How is, if they're out there looking at which program to engage in?
Let's give if it's okay, let's give like number 3. We never gave a number. We said number 1's the wrong fit. I don't think we did, right? Number 2's the What did you call it? I'm calling it the slow boat to China. You're
Oh,
calling.
sure. You could do it that way. Slow
What do
boat
you
to China.
what do you call it? You had
I don't know.
snail's
I
pace.
think I just said it's a snail's pace.
A
Yeah.
snail's pace. That's good.
It's slow.
Snail's pace is good too. So our second one is snail's pace. And the third one I've deemed in my mind is kind of and we didn't really totally talk about this, but we breezed across it, is that, meeting with someone and you said this, sorry, you're a lost cause. I can't help you. And, again, when women are devastated and they've had that tingly feeling, they finally got through to their partner and they're on their way, which, most partners can't engage in a therapeutic process until they move through to acceptance that they have to deal with this. So a lot of times there's manipulation, and I'm a little off track, but if you convince your partner to go, likely a partner who is addicted will go, but they will be full of crap the whole time. They will be using their self-defensive mechanisms to protect themselves. It's the addiction trying to keep itself alive. It's some crazy behaviors can happen in that meeting, which then inspires a therapist who doesn't know that addicted partner, or that partner who is compulsively acting out sexually because of all of the underpinnings of sexual addiction, makes the partner act in this way. It's part of the problem that needs to be dealt with, not a marker that you are a lost cause. So if you go and that therapist tells you, or that coach or counselor, whoever, what the credentials are, they go, I'm sorry, you're a lost cause. That means they don't know and they don't have the tools. Nobody's a lost cause in my mind.
Absolutely.
And I could blow your doors off with stories.
Actually says that, literally run, but it won't come out, generally. I hope it doesn't actually come out like that. But, for us, like they literally did say, this is not going to change if you don't like it leave.
I've had that experience with so many people. Like that's very common, which is why it's a danger. And it's just because the person doesn't see the potential in the challenges. And so, yes, it might be a marker that there's more work to be done. And so like my mind's always doing that when I coach people. And I tell people though, because, I joke with men that my job is to spit straight facts, not to sugarcoat things. I do it lovingly though. And I'll tell people, and a good coach, or even, therapists to a certain extent, if they're skilled, I think, because they can bury it in their sounding boardness, is to challenge your thought system. Because even in sexual betrayal, but especially in addiction, your thought system has been distorted because of what's going on with you. So the job is to go, the thing that I'm seeing in front of me is part of the problem. So I have to challenge your thought system to get you into a new one so we can move forward. So if a person gives you glassy eyes, like they don't know what to do with you, if they tell you that it's okay. So the lost cause, the flip of the coin with the lost cause is also, some coaches or counselors will tell you to stay in an abusive relationship. And it's so hard to know, where's that fine line? But a skilled person, again, will be able to go, okay, this emotional abuse that you are suffering is because of the addiction. When there is addiction, there's always emotional abuse. You will be gaslighted, you will be manipulated, you will be, the addiction will be minimized, rationalized, justified. You'll be told that it's you, not him. But that's the addiction talking. And a skilled person can see that. A non-skilled person will go, he's not doing anything, because gaslighting and manipulation is so low key. Everything's fine. Y'all are fine. And so the danger is you're a total lost cause, or y'all are fine. And the continuum in the middle is where the work is. So, being able to be with a person who doesn't go to those two extremes, is able to engage in the process with you to see where you actually are. A skilled person will go, I can see that, that weird manipulative behavior. And we got to dig in to see where we're at there. And, there's no such thing as a lost cause.
So much time, which takes so much time. And you were so right it takes a long time for us to try to get our husbands there. And so this is a program that we've created that you don't have to wait around. If they're not already in the Porn Brain Reboot program, you don't have to wait around for them. if you feel like this is a problem in your life and you know, even suspect, you don't even have to have uncovered this. If you suspect that there's might be something going on there, get yourself in the program. You start healing now. Don't just wait years and years and years till they finally are like, oh yeah, I think that might be a problem.
Yeah. And, I think that if you are in a good program, that you can shorten the time that you get your partner into a program by decades. Literally by decades. So like, for some people, and again, I've worked with people in their 70s that have been ignoring this, but they're miserable. It'd be one thing if it was fine, but they're being consumed from the inside out over decades of a relationship that isn't serving them with a partner who's not well. No partner who is well wants to treat their partner in an ill way. They just don't want to. So like, there's healing that can be done.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Any other final words that you'd like to share?
No, I just want people to know that, if you're struggling with sexual betrayal, if you feel alone, if you're hurting, if you had that experience and you're either in a ball in the corner, not knowing what to do, or if you're filled with rage and you keep acting out yourself, in our program, we talk about ways of changing your behaviors to deal with this instead of just to not deal with it and stay in that place. Like, I just want people to know you can get out of that quickly by getting into a good program. And again, like, I want people to join our program because I know we can help them. But I always tell men, if my program doesn't feel good to you and any of this resonates, find a program that feels good to you, because it can be the difference maker of, again, just floating around. And then what happens to women is, and everybody actually, our brains fight for homeostasis. If you don't address it when you're in that pain point, your brain will fight to get back to the fake great that you were at. And it will fight to just go back to the norm you had, whether it was good for you or not. And that'll just happen over time. So it takes a lot of strength to be able to move through it. And generally that strength has to be achieved in numbers, not by yourself, but with the support group behind you. So I want people to know that's the difference. Our program is priced affordably so that people can get into it, and it's awesome. So it's at sanityafterbetrayal.com for people to look for it. It's being, as of today's recording, it's being built right now, which is totally awesome, the website. And we have a main program. We have individual coaching, group coaching with Adria, and then we're going to have smaller workshops, which we're excited to get to once we get these things done.
All right.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'll talk to you next time. What are we going to talk about next time? Do we have any good ideas?
Lots of randomness, probably.
That's okay. I think it's good for people to know. It can be random, but systemized. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.